All right, guys, what is going on? Welcome back to another Sophisticated Man podcast with a familiar guest. If you guys have seen the previous one, Brandi, what's going on?
Nothing. Thanks for having me. Nice to be back.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good to have you back. And just in case people didn't see the first few ones that we did, if someone's new watching this, if you just want to briefly explain a little bit
Sure.
about who you are and, what you got going on social media wise.
Yeah, good point. I think it's been a while, but I'm just a health and fitness lifestyle guru. I share a lot of food, gym, lifestyle tips, money, success, sales, kind of looping that all into just a lifestyle and trying to be a high achiever in life. So that's kind of the go around for me.
Absolutely. Very holistic sense of the content you do.
Would you say?
I said very holistic, like it's kind of a little bit of everything.
Yeah. Trying to preach that women can do it all and you can have it all. Just got to
Sure.
work hard.
If you guys want to see some of her content, I'll leave her links down below if you want to check them out. Instagram, I think just Instagram, right, is where you put most of your stuff.
Yep, just Instagram.
Cool. Cool. Well, yeah, that's kind of the main reason I wanted to have a woman on here, just because it's interesting to get like a female perspective about relationships and dating and masculine feminine dynamics. So I'm always interested in having like conversations like this. Um, I think maybe we can start with actually we probably just branch off of what you just said, honestly, because it kind of like get like triggered a question in my mind when it comes to women kind of having that high achieving mindset, because you're seeing that a lot more nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
Women are like starting businesses, being entrepreneurs, and maybe
Yep.
just being content creators in general. And I'm not like against that. I think that's a really good thing.
Yeah.
Um, where's what's your experience with that when it comes to being that kind of girl, but
Mm-hmm.
also like how has it affected your dating life? And you don't have to get too detailed, but
Yeah. No, I think that's a great question. I
mhm,
think it all comes down to what you prioritize and what's important at that specific time in your life. I
yeah,
think being in your 20s and being young, I think people should be more selfish and go after what you want. I think you need to kind of create a life for yourself in order to be a part of somebody. Because if you're not bringing anything to the table or there's nothing that you offer and you don't really have anything for yourself, I really feel that you can't be like that person can't be your entire life. You have to have
yeah,
other things going on, and I think that concludes to a healthy relationship. So I think for me, in the past, that was you give it a lot of time because I thought that that was what was important, finding a boyfriend and going that route. But over the past 5 years, I think, and as of recently, you make time for someone that you feel is right. I think you get to a point where
hmm,
you know what you want, and there's certain characteristics that you look for in a man. And I'm one of those people that I think if that person just comes up in the time of my life and that the timing is right, I'm not on the dating apps. I don't, I don't have the best experience with those, so I don't go on those. And as of most recently, actually, I think it was the end of March. This was the first time I had ever like gotten to know or dated like what I consider a high value man. So um, he was at the gym. We didn't meet on social media or anything. It was just kind of we bumped into each other, introduced ourselves, and gave it a shot. But yeah,
mm,
I guess that's a slimmed
mm,
down version of where I could go with that.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that is the best way to do it. Just if I had to give any like 2 cents on that, I do think that is one of the best ways to do it, because like we talked about this before too, dating apps and like going to the clubs, going to the bars, people look at that stuff and like, yeah, I'm gonna find my wife or I'm gonna find my husband in this place or my boyfriend, my girlfriend. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible, but I will say it's like if I had a fish net and I put it into like an ocean and said I'm gonna find the best fish possible in this massive ocean, and you're just
Mhm.
fishing in this one spot, you're gonna miss a lot of the other fish that you probably didn't see out there. And you're just going to get, oh, well, wow, this fishing sucks because I just got a lousy fish or a lousy catch. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know how that analogy just came out of me, but that's literally like how people view relationships. Like
Hmm.
guys go into bar settings or online dating, and even
Oh
women
yeah.
do this too.
Yep.
And they have a bad experience, and they're like, "Oh, men are trash," or "Women suck," like they're terrible. It's like, well, bro, like look at where you're meeting these people. That's a big indicator of like where that is going to lead to, at least most of the time.
Yeah, I'm
So
glad you
yeah,
went that route because I totally believe that finding someone in an environment that you're in is going to
yeah,
reflect on the relationship that you're in. So, for example,
mm-hmm,
5 years ago, I was in college, super young at the time, but I was spending a lot of time at the bars and partying and doing all of the wrong things. And I had gotten myself into a relationship with somebody doing the same exact thing. And it was an awful relationship. But thinking now, okay, we're both partying, we're both going out to bars. What are we doing? Like, this isn't
mm-hmm,
right. And so now, fast forward 5 years later, I think back to the man that I had met months ago. We met at the gym at 5 a.m. in the morning. Like, we were clearly both on the same wavelength, the same grinds. Like, we both were there for a reason. I don't think people just get up at 4 a.m. to, like, woo, So
yeah, not many.
you meet people along the way, and you just got to focus on what you like, what's important, and like whether that's traveling. You can meet people. I met somebody on a plane once. I mean, there's
Mm,
opportunities for you to meet people in different settings than a bar and on dating apps. And I understand people want the fast and the quickest way to meet somebody and find somebody fast, but I don't think that that's like natural or I don't know, the right way to go about trying to find a significant other.
mm-hmm,
Like the bar scene
yeah,
is no. I hear it so often though. People think it's like a regular thing to do, especially a lot of guys that I know. They're going to bars looking for quote unquote wives, and I'm like, you high value women or a wifey material girl is probably not at the bars in lingerie and jeans. Like you're not
no,
going to find it there. I'm sorry.
literally not at all. I mean, the odd chance that because I have a couple like people in my network.
Hmm.
One of them is like an older guy, really successful real estate mogul, multiple businesses, does content, like just a really high achieving dude.
Yeah.
And he actually met his wife at a bar. Now it wasn't like they weren't in the bar together, but he was like basically just there having fun. Didn't really have
Mhm.
any like anything to do, just going around being social. And I think he told me that his wife was actually standing outside of the bar, just like by herself or something. And he
Mhm.
walked up to her and he just started talking.
Yeah.
And then from there, they hit it off. And now they have two kids together. And they're basically like, I think she does stuff with like fitness and lifestyle stuff. So you just really never know. But your chances are small, I would say, if you go to that
Mhm.
kind of setting.
Yep.
Um, because like you said, it breeds a certain kind of person and it breeds a certain type of value system when you think about it. Like if I'm going to the bars all the time,
Right.
what kind of long-term partner does that end up looking like? Usually not somebody who's loyal, somebody who's communicative, like they talk to you, they actually like
Yeah.
are trustworthy. That
Mm.
usually doesn't lead to those type of character traits.
Oh, I completely agree. Yeah. Completely agree.
So I wanted to I think you mentioned something I wanted to ask. God, what was it? Yeah, so we were talking about you mentioned like you noticed this guy in the gym who was like,
Mhm.
more your type of like high value man, and like that's
Yeah.
kind of how you viewed him. I'm
Yeah.
curious for the guys watching,
Yeah.
what is like the step, or not even the step, but what's like the moment that a girl realizes like, oh, this guy's for real? Like what does that look like? And
Yeah.
what's the difference between that and just like an average guy?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think there was a lot that I was noticing. I think the biggest thing for me was consistency. And
Mhm.
he's a go-getter at the gym. I noticed he worked super hard. He was really in shape. He was there every single morning. And when we started to get to know each other, you can tell that everything was with intention. His consistency with talking to me, spending time with me. But he was also prioritizing his business and all of the other life goals that he had aside. Like
Mhm.
he would like was working nonstop, but he still made time to talk to me. He would tell me everything that was going on. He wasn't somebody he didn't even have social media. So like I couldn't even find him on the internet if I tried.
Mm.
And he wasn't spending his time at the bars on the weekend. Like again, he was working, he was spending time with family, we were doing something like just a bunch of things. He was somebody that felt very trustworthy to, like, instantly, because again it was just like the constant communication. He was a great communicator. Told me expectations, intention, like the whole way through it. Unfortunately, just it ended up not being the right timing for him or myself. But it was still a great experience overall. I mean, I have nothing but amazing things to say about that
Mm.
man. But compared to everyone else I had interacted with, I think it was just a lack of consistency. It was asking me out to go to Southside or North Shore to go grab drinks. It was just like asking me for nude pictures and just
Oh
only
my
texting
god.
me when they wanted to go grab a drink, or they weren't actually asking me questions about myself either. It was more of them like
Mhm.
spewing a lot of information about them onto me, which is fine, but I think there has to be a balance between you telling about yourself and also asking questions, because when you're asking questions, that means that you're curious and you are actually interested in getting to know somebody. So
Mhm.
there was a lot of lack of that from past guys. Again, just so many guys go out and party on the weekends, and that's just so unattractive to me nowadays, because I'm going to be 27 next month. I don't want to spend my weekends at the bar with you and get drunk. Like I want to build. What can we build together?
Mhm.
So I'm thankful for that experience, because not only did I at one point didn't think that there were men out there like that, but it confirmed that they are rare. And not only now I have a standard to go by moving forward. So yeah, I guess that's what I would say was most of the differences. There's a lot more I can go into detail about, but those are the main points I would say that I noticed.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the thing that stuck out to me, you mentioned consistency like multiple times. And I think that goes far beyond just like consistency in the gym, consistency
Hmm.
like with his disciplines. I
Yep.
think it also comes back to what you said too. He was actually like communicating, and he was the same guy that he was when you met him throughout the
Yep.
course of talking to this guy. I'm just assuming here, but
Yeah. Hmm.
I think that is where a lot of guys get confused, or maybe they don't understand, because women say that a lot. Like, I want a man who's consistent. I want a guy who's consistent. And I guess from a guy's point of view,
Hmm.
they might not even know what that means. Like, what is consistency? Like, what is that? And I think what you just described is that exact behavior. It's literally like being a guy who's, if I'm like this confident, charismatic, um, I know where I'm going. I have
Hmm.
like a solid direction for myself guy when I meet you. If I'm that same guy 2 months, 3 months, 2 years, 4 years down the road,
Yep.
that's really what women want, is like the fact that, oh, this guy, he stayed consistent, and he
Hmm.
wasn't like, oh, one day he wasn't as focused, or one day he didn't
Yeah.
give me attention, or this or that. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of where, I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just kind of speaking from a guy's point of view,
Yeah.
but
No, I can definitely confirm. I think we get things a little mixed up when it comes to like attention, right? Like I didn't
mhm,
need him to text me all day, every second of the day, telling me what he was doing every second hour, every hour. It was
right,
just the good morning, and then it was maybe we didn't talk for 6 hours. He still called me, and it was very consistent day in and day out. There was maybe a few days in between that we didn't talk, but again, he was extremely busy. I mean, he was running businesses, he had a full-time
sure,
job, he was in real estate, like all of these things. He still made time to FaceTime, to have a phone conversation, to plan a date night once every 2 weeks. Like, went out of his way and was consistent. Like, every two
mhm,
weeks or every week, he had something planned for us to do. And
mm,
it was over the course of only 4 months, but still, consistency is key. It's not something that you don't have to talk to somebody every single day of every hour, and it's consistent over time.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, this is kind of aligned with. I just made a video recently that I'm gonna. Well, I guess if people are watching this, it's already out. But my YouTube video where I talk about ignoring women, and I know that that's kind of like a what the hell? Why would he say that? And it sounds wrong, but you're
Hmm.
basically describing what that guy did. Like he didn't intentionally ignore you. He
No.
just had a busy life. I mean,
Yeah.
he had businesses. He wasn't always on his phone. When he
Mm-mm.
got to you, he took the time to like be there, but
Yep.
it's not like every single second of the day he was available. He was
Yep.
always texting, always, always there to chat. And that's what I mean when I say
Yeah.
ignoring. I don't actually mean like if a
Nope.
girl's talking to you, just be like, oh, whatever, I'm not even going to pay attention. It's
Hmm.
more about being a guy who's just has other things going on, to put it simply. Like you have things that you're building, a business, your physique, your money, your
Yeah.
network, like you have things to do. And it's like the saying goes, distance makes the heart grow fonder, and it's super true. Like if you don't see somebody all the time, you're
Hmm.
gonna naturally want to know like what are they up to, what's going on. Like
Yeah.
you're not in like an anxious way, but just
Yeah.
you haven't talked to them in a while and you want to
Right.
catch up and you're curious, especially for women. It's like that distance is like, oh my God, what's he doing? Does he like me anymore? Or it's like, what's going on? And it just like
Yeah.
creates that feeling of I wanna get some of his attention. And when
Yeah.
you do reach out, it's like, oh, there it is. So I think that is important, is to have distance, even in the talking stages, like very early on. You don't want to be just like up each other's ass
No.
24/7.
Mm-mm. I totally agree. I think that's there's a lot wrong with that, because if you're texting every single day from the time that your eyes open to the time that they close, you're
Yeah.
gonna run out of things to talk to. You could get bored, and I think that's when people start, they have wandering eyes, and you get to know them so fast, so quickly, that I feel like that's why relationships don't end up working out, and why people maybe on average only last a year and a half to 2 years, because you spend every waking moment together every single day. And
Yep.
I think people try to speed things up way too fast, instead of actually just like taking time to, one, work on yourself, but also get to know somebody. You can do both. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good taking it slow. Like this was the first time I think I had ever taken something slow, and you learn so much though.
Yeah.
Um, Throughout that, and taking it slow, you learn maybe this isn't the person that I want to be with, or maybe it is. Like, and you don't have to rush into things and then feel like you're trapped because you got into a relationship so fast.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I agree. I think being
Yeah.
I wanted to add too, just a communicator. Like
Mm-hmm.
communication is so important. Like, and if you ever a woman or a man should never like feel, oh, I don't know how to explain it, like they're getting ignored. If that person could just say, hey, I'm busy, I'm traveling for the next 2 days, I'll call you, or we can go out when I get home. He would do stuff like that. Hey, I'm traveling here,
Mm-hmm.
I will be home this day, at this time, let's do something, or let's talk then. It's as simple as just saying, hey, I have X, Y, and Z going on, I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
be busy, I'm not going to be on my phone, I'll talk to you when I'm available, and vice versa. Like, hey, I'm at
Mm-hmm.
work all day, we can talk tonight. It's really as simple as just letting each other know too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Communication is literally everything. And
Mhm.
I think when you guys can be on the same page, then things go smoothly.
Yeah.
Um, like I'll kind of bring it back to even my past experience. So my
Yeah.
ex-girlfriend, and hopefully she's not watching this part because I am going to get a little bit detailed, but uh we would have pretty good communication. Like we would talk about, oh, I'm busy, etc.
Mhm.
But the thing that I think, and this I'll blame myself because I think that's my job as a guy to like set those boundaries. We would just simply see each other too much, and it would
Mhm.
be to the point where we were hanging out like 2, 3, 4 times a week, and it was hard to really miss her. I'll be honest, like because she was always there,
Yeah.
and when she wasn't there, she was FaceTiming me, and when we weren't
Right.
FaceTiming, we were texting, and we weren't texting, like we were constantly in communication. And um, I might just be someone who's different. I don't know if anybody likes that, but I'll tell you that I don't think that that is the best way to do it, just because you're constantly like in touch with this person. You don't really
Mhm.
have much to talk about. I mean,
Yep.
even if you're really compatible, I think you lose a little bit of attraction or just
Yeah, I
even
agree.
desire for the person, because
Mhm.
you're just like, oh my God, like I just talked to you. You know, we're gonna talk
Yeah.
another 2 hours on the FaceTime. Like what
Right.
else is there to say?
Mhm.
Um, and I'll be honest, there was a moment where she took like a vacation, so I didn't see her for like a week, and we
Mhm.
still texted and stuff, but I didn't see her in person for a week. And when she came back, we were like all over each other, and I'm like, well, shit,
Yeah.
I didn't see you, so I was like actually missing you.
Yeah.
But I think that is where I think more guys get in trouble with that, is setting the boundary of like, hey, I can't see you every day. I maybe
Mhm.
have 1 or 2 days a week that we can like hang out, but other than that, I got stuff to do.
Yep.
So I think that is really important as the man to like set a boundary for yourself and say, hey, I can only allow one, two, maybe three, if you
Yep.
guys are really, really like maybe a year into relationship,
Yep.
to allow for date night. Because anything more than that, and you just kind of lose that, people call it the spark, but you just lose that initial feeling of like, oh man, this person's like amazing. And you get this like crazy rush of like dopamine that
Yep.
goes away if you're always seeing and talking to them.
It does. And you lose the excitement of getting to see that person. Like you
Yeah.
spending 2 weeks apart from each other, not seeing each other. I mean, maybe texting,
Mm-hmm.
phone call here and there. Like you get excited to either go on date night or like see
Yep.
your person. And if you're spending again 4 or 5 days a week, it would just become routine at that point. You would lose the excitement, and it just
Mm-hmm.
be like a every day to day thing. And I think
Yep.
relationship and dating should be exciting. You should be happy. That should give you dopamine. Like
Yep.
so, yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah. It should be something you look forward to, not something
Mhm.
you're just dreading or just like,
Right.
this person again. Like you just don't care.
Right. Yeah, I agree. That's when I think the cheating happens, the wandering eyes, and then that's when
Oh
shit
yeah.
just hits the ceiling. So, yeah,
Yep.
I agree.
I would agree. I think that that leads to a lot of issues in relationships,
Mhm.
mainly. Um, I'd say mainly cheating. I don't know if, I mean, there's obviously other things, but I think cheating is a big reason or a big thing that happens when you either give way too much attention and they just get bored of you,
Yep.
or you're not giving any attention at all. And they're like, what the heck, are we even together? And then you start looking elsewhere. So I think that happens a lot.
Hmm.
Um,
I would agree with you
yeah.
going back to your point of having the man setting the standards on that because
Mm-hmm.
like as a woman we get super excited about dating, we get super excited about love and connections, and like it really is something extremely exciting for us, and sometimes we lose sight of like our self-control when it comes to that and wanting to see this person 24/7. And I think if a man helps keep that standard, like, hey, no, we're only going to do this once a week, like we
Yep.
need that. Like I
Yeah.
honestly need that. And it helps so much because again you just get
Mm-hmm.
so excited and you want to do everything all at once and you want to fit it all in 1 week. And it's challenging because girls get, I think, a little bit more excited than guys do when it comes to that stuff. So I thought that was a really good point.
Yeah. There's a I'll say this to everybody watching. There's a reason that romance novels are the number one selling book for women. There's a reason for that, because it's like the story of guy meets girl, they start
Hmm.
talking, they fall in love, and like that's why it's such a like marriage in general too, like a girl's wedding day, like being in front of her family, her fiance's family, being there to just like celebrate a magical moment. That's
Yeah.
what every girl I mean, maybe not every single one, but that's what majority of women fantasize about. And
100%.
there's a reason for that. It's
Mhm.
because like they want to be in a fairy tale. They want to be like swept off their feet.
Yeah.
Maybe not literally, but just that's just the way that it is. So I think as a guy, like if you can provide that to her and you can give
Mhm.
her those good emotions, you can make her feel like it's naturally unfolding.
Yep.
Then you're good. I mean, she's not gonna. That's why I think guys get confused. Like, she's not going to leave you if she's always thinking about you. It
No.
just
Mm-mm.
doesn't work that way.
Nope.
So, what was I going to say about that? Uh, yes. Speaking of, because I want to bounce off your point too when you're talking about like the man setting the boundary, kind of setting the standard there. Because this gets brought up a lot, and I think it's one of those points that gets really misunderstood. The term 50-50 relationships or 50-50 dating. What's your take on that? Like, do you think that is the ideal? Do you think that's usually how it works, or do you have a different opinion?
Yeah. And 50-50, you mean like in terms of what?
Like 50-50, where most people describe it as it's more equal. Like sometimes the guy sets the
Mhm.
dates, and sometimes it's the girl. Sometimes
Yeah.
the guy pays, sometimes the girl pays, and it's kind of like more of a equal partnership, I guess. People usually describe it.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting topic because I think for
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say the longest time, but when I was in my like, and I'm still am in my boss bitch phase, but I was like, oh, I'm okay with being the breadwinner, and I'm okay paying for the X, Y, and Z, and being this and
Mm-hmm.
that. And over time, I've started to realize that like having a man pay for dinner, paying for things, being the leader is kind of what a girl needs. Like we need leadership. And I know
Yep.
there's a lot of women out there who are leaders and they're boss ass bitches, but I still think that you can be that in maybe your life outside of your relationship. But I don't know. Like you can be that and you can also submit to your man. I think that's what gives like men want that though. They want women to submit.
Absolutely.
So I think now
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say 50-50, maybe a little higher, because I still think a woman should bring something to the table. And I do think sometimes, a woman should treat a man on him if he's hardworking and he's, doing all of the right things, but maybe more like a 70-30 split.
Mm-hmm.
But it could go both ways, though. I think you need to treat each other like loyalty, communication, trust, like the key values of a relationship need to be equal, but all the external stuff, I think, can be I guess whatever
Mm-hmm.
you make it. And if you mean in terms of a man paying for dinners and leading and their decisions are, you kind of follow their lead on certain things, like, yeah, I think, yes, I
Mm-hmm.
would agree with that aspect of the relationship.
Yeah. That's more what I meant. Like the guy kind of shouldering a lot of that responsibility, kind of
Hmm.
setting the standard, like leading, taking direction, and all that. Because I
Yeah.
think what really I've noticed this with men get irritated when they hear women say like, "Oh, it should be 50-50, it should be equal." And then the same women that say that are like, "Hold the door open for me. Why don't you pay first date?" It's like,
Yep.
how's that equal?
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's kind of funny how some women will say that, and they'll want the traditional relationship, the traditional
Yep.
like dynamic, but then act like that's not equal, or act like they want equality at the same time. It's like it doesn't work that way.
Mm-mm.
So
Yep.
it is very interesting. I think I was just watching a podcast where this guy was describing it, and he was mentioning like, yeah, dating isn't 50-50. Like when you think about like setting a date, and this is no offense to women or anything, but who does most of the work? Like the guy sets the plan, he picks the place, he says, "Hey, meet me here at this time."
Hmm.
He initiates the contact,
Yep.
and he pays for it most likely. He goes and does all these. He maybe even picks you up. Like there's a lot of steps that go into it, and on the at least on the first date, the girl, she can contribute a little bit, but for the most part, kind of just like shows up and has a good
Yeah.
time.
Hmm.
So it's like there's not. I mean, that's just people can complain about that. They can say things about it, but that's generally just kind of the way it works
Yeah.
for more traditional in a traditional sense.
Yeah.
But
I agree.
yeah, I just think this like 50-50 narrative just about anything. It's like people that say that don't understand polarity, and I
Yeah.
like to describe it as like magnets, right?
Hmm.
Because like when you get two opposite ends of a magnet, what happens? They're attracted. They have that magnetism. But two positive ends, they repel each other.
Hmm.
Two negative ends, same thing. They repel each other. So same exact thing for relationships. There's literally no difference. If you have
Yep.
two masculines, I mean, you're not going to be drawn to each other. Same
Yep.
thing with two feminines. You're not going to be drawn.
I agree.
So regardless of who it is, someone has to take the masculine role, and then
Yep.
someone has to take the feminine. Now, generally speaking, it's usually the man who's
Yep.
masculine and the woman's feminine. So
Hmm.
that's just the way it works. I mean, that's the way it's worked for God thousands of years, and
Yep.
it's a proven method. So
Yeah, I agree.
people
I
get
think that's why
really
we have a lot
offended
of,
by that.
yeah, it's funny because years ago I probably would have been offended by that too, but
Yeah,
you go through phases with people and phases of life, and
yeah,
it's all like and I think this is why we're having so many issues nowadays with dating, and people run into situationships, and there's the hookup culture and the party culture and all these things, is because
yeah.
too many women are trying to be too masculine. And I think
I agree.
there's just not, and but on the flip side too, like a man needs to bring their feminine side out in a woman. Like they need to bring out the feminine in me. And I think with the last guy, that guy that I had talked to, he brought out my feminine side. He made me feel like it was okay to not pay for everything, or not be the leader, or not have all these opinions and etc. Like it was actually great, and there was so
Hmm.
much less pressure on me, I felt like, as a woman, to not have to do everything. And
Yeah.
he always paid for dinner, made the plans, y'all could Ubers. Like he made me feel like it was okay. And I think
Hmm.
without that experience, I wouldn't be able to say like, oh yes, I think um, girls should be more masculine. No, I think the opposite.
Hmm.
Actually, I think a it's okay to have some of those traits, but I think you need to give in to what we're supposed to be. um,
Hmm.
that's super feminine, and just allowing
Yeah.
the man to do what they're meant to do too.
Hmm.
Definitely gotten really far from that, and I don't know if
Yep.
it's people just wanting to one up another or thinking X, Y, and Z. I don't know how we got to this place, but yeah, I think traditional dating has clearly
Yeah.
always worked, and there's a reason for it.
Hmm. I think there's a lot of reasons why it's been that way. I mean, I could probably go on a riff for like 2 hours of why that actually happened. Um, but to your point, um, I do agree with what you're saying. I do want to challenge a little bit of what you said though, because
Okay.
I think that there's, and this is a great learning experience. I think for women too, just in
Hmm.
case maybe they watch this, because I think that I hear that a lot too. Even on a guy's side, they'll say like, "Oh yeah, like a girl's gonna make me masculine," or a girl will say like, "Well, my man's gonna make me feminine," etc. Which
Hmm.
is like, yeah, he can help with that,
Yeah.
but I'm all about like personal accountability and
Yep.
responsibility, and like you got to do your own healing at the end of the day. Like
Hmm.
it's not a woman's job to make me masculine. Like
Right.
I have
Right.
to be that first. She can help, but like that's my job to do it for myself. And I think the same thing for women too. Like, is it a man's job to make you feminine? Not necessarily. Like he can help bring it out, but I
Yeah.
think for a woman, she could even take on that accountability. Like, hey, I'm working on my feminine without a man. So
Yeah.
if he does come into my life,
Hmm.
he can help with that, but it's already developed. So
Yeah.
like, yeah, just what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. No, I agree. I guess I didn't mean it to come off as it's a job for the other
Mm-hmm.
person to do. I meant more of like making each other feel comfortable enough to bring out that side in each other.
Yeah.
I guess was the way I was trying to go in terms of just like, for me and my experience, he
Mm-hmm.
had set the date, made the plans, and then paid for dinner on the first date. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And then the second date, he did the same exact thing. And I was like, well, do you want me to pay? Do you want me to pay for half? And he was like, no, I got it. But it was just like little like
Yep.
moments like that that make you could make each other feel comfortable and work on it kind of together.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Sure.
so I guess that was the route I was going to. I completely agree with it not being somebody
Mm-hmm.
else's job to bring that out in, but maybe make it more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
for each other to be that certain way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's well said. I only say that because I've seen a lot of videos where women are like, he's supposed to make me feminine. He's supposed to. I'm like, huh? Like
No.
he'll help with that, but I mean, number one, you got crazy
Just-
masculine energy just sounding like that
yeah.
because you're sounding super aggressive. Like, just calm
Yeah.
down.
Uh-huh.
Um, So that I do agree with the way that you interpreted that. Um, and guys, that's a test too. You're at a date, girl says, "Let me pay for it." Don't give in to that. Don't
No,
do
no,
it.
it's totally a
Be the
test.
one to pay. Be
I
the
can
one to pay.
confirm from
Oh
the
my god.
women ourselves, it's definitely a test.
It is always, especially the first date. Like maybe you
Mhm.
guys been out for a month, and it's not the worst thing in the world if she were to pitch or something like that. But
Mhm.
first date, first couple dates, just take care of the bill. Like just be the guy to take the lead and like set that standard. So it's always a test.
Oh yeah, I hear interesting stories just about the dating world and friends, and hearing all these stories though, because
Hmm.
some guys will literally just ask the girl to pay for it or ask her to split it, and I'm like, bro,
Unbelievable. Unreal.
just hear these silly stories. But yeah, that's an interesting topic.
Mm. I think it's honestly crazy as a guy to be like, hey, I'm going to ask the girl that I told to come on a date with me. I'm gonna ask the girl that I asked out to pay for the date.
Hmm.
It's just crazy. I mean, this is also why some just random dating advice too. I don't recommend going anywhere crazy, like luxurious or extravagant for your first date. Like literally, you can go grab a coffee, grab a tea. You can
Yeah.
literally grab like a quick bite to eat, like ice cream or whatever. I usually just do something like that, something very casual. You don't
Hmm.
have to spend a lot of money. So that way you're not like setting the frame of, oh, he's going to take me to steak dinners every time we hang out. Like she's not
Right.
going to expect that. So you're just taking her
Oh
somewhere casual.
no.
So
Hmm.
that way if you don't like each other, you're only spending a little bit of money and you
Right.
can dip very, very quickly.
Yep.
So it's just a way to protect both people, I think. So you're
I
both
agree.
not wasting time. Because
Right.
how awkward is that if you're at a dinner or like a nice dinner with someone, they're across from you and there's no chemistry at all, and you're just sitting
Oh,
there having to force a conversation. I mean, there's nothing worse than that.
oh yeah. I think that's when you get drunk and you have a few too many, and it's like, all right, time
Yeah.
to leave. Yeah,
Yep.
that can be awkward. I think building a friendship first is always important too, because you at least you know that you can have a conversation and you know that you get along well with this person. And sometimes it works out for the best, or sometimes you end up just being friends, and that works out too.
Hmm. That's an interesting topic. I kind of want to jump onto because I think that that's something that a lot of guys have, I guess, reservations about when it
Hmm.
comes to like men and women being friends. Should that happen? Is that like helpful for one another? Um, I definitely have my opinions about that, but I'm curious for you. Like, do you think it's normal for guys and women to be, or men and women to be just platonic friends, or like, what's your stance on that?
Yeah, I have mixed opinions about and thoughts on that because I think
Hmm.
sometimes it just doesn't work out, especially if you're physically attracted to your friend. I don't think that that
Yeah.
ever ends up working out. I think
Right.
you can't ever get past the physical attraction. Something ends up happening. You sleep with each other, then shit gets awkward, and you're no longer friends.
Yeah.
But I think there's are instances where there's like genuinely just not an attraction there, and you can have
Hmm.
that friendship. Because I do have very slim amount of good guy friends, and we connect on business, we connect on the gym, like we connect on all these other things, but we're not physically attracted to one another. But I think if you are, and there is a connection and you are friends, so like for instance, this guy that I had talked about multiple times now, I wouldn't say we were friends, but we had established somewhat of a friendship before we actually decided to go on a date. Like we had said what's up to each other. We'd have like very small conversations in the morning. We got to a point where I was like, hey, can you help me like replace these plates, or can you spot me? And like we'd fist bump each other in the gym. Like it was very casual at first. And so like I could say that's like a friendship, and then we ended up realizing, oh, maybe this could be something more. But then that ends up not being like the end goal. If you're
Hmm.
physically attracted to somebody and you build a friendship, it either goes one way or goes the other.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I do have mixed opinions on it. I think that
Hmm.
depending on the scenario, I would say no, but also yes.
Hmm. I can see where you're coming from. I think, and I've always held the belief that if two people are attracted to each other, it's literally impossible to be friends.
Yeah,
I
no,
think
it doesn't work out.
you can't fake that. And the beautiful thing about attraction is nature takes care of that. So you don't have to worry about, oh, am I going to like her? Blah blah blah. You're going to know, and it's going to either be there or it's not going to be there. So that kind of takes care of itself. But yeah, to your point, like if it's a business friendship and like there's value that you get from each other, and
Yep.
because I have a girl that she's not, I guess I consider her a friend. She's an acquaintance, and
Right.
she's done work for me before. She's a photographer. She does amazing work, and we've connected a few times. I've went to some of her events. We still keep in contact here and there, and I would consider her like someone in my network.
Yeah.
Um, so that could work,
Yep.
but I think that from a guy's point of view, because I know guys were visual, so we see a girl who's attractive, we're like, wow, I want to get to know her. Not in a friendship way. That's
Right.
never like our first thought of,
Right.
wow, I want to be her friend. Like no guy thinks that.
Yeah.
So I think from a guy's point of view, if you have that attraction to her, try, like, go for it romantically first. At least in my opinion, you
Hmm.
should try for that first, because if you find out that there's no compatibility or she doesn't like you, there's just not, something doesn't work,
Yep.
then you can easily just be like, okay, well, I'm not looking for a friendship, but have a nice life, basically.
Yeah.
Um, I just think that that's the best case scenario, because a lot of guys will get stuck in the friend zone, and they'll
Yes.
think, all right, well, I'm going to be this girl's friend. I'm going to be really nice to her, maybe hang out with her, help her out with some stuff, just for the hope that someday, yeah, she'll come around and she'll actually realize that I'm the one for her and she'll fall in love with me. But
Yeah.
that's just never
It
how it
never
works.
works out. No. It's funny you
No.
mention it that way because I have definitely felt that multiple times with some guys.
Oh,
And it's
yeah.
funny because at first I feel like I'm such a genuine, like nice person. And I do like knowing people and networking. And I'm if I know you, I'll say what's up. But
Mm
guys who reach out and just say, "Oh, I'm just looking to be your friend." At first, it was funny. Like the first couple times it happened, I'm like, okay, and then like the
hmm.
first
Mm hmm.
like if that comes out of their mouth or they're just saying they just want to be friends, I'm not trying to be your man. I'm like, I know that's
Yep.
exactly what you're trying to do.
Exactly. And
So
then you
I try
can,
to,
like,
yeah,
immediately.
yeah, yeah. I feel like for me on the flip side, um, for just like guys I've gone up to who play basketball, for instance, I'm like, hey, can I play? Like, when do you guys play? Like, if
Mm
I
hmm.
go up to them first, maybe, and I'm like, introduce myself. That's how most of my friendships have panned out. But the other side, usually, if a guy had come up to me and had introduced himself, it usually was I'm not trying to be your man, and they were. But yeah, so
I think it's absolutely insane, because if you say that and you're like, oh yeah, I just want to be your friend, I'm not looking at romantically or anything like that,
mhm,
you're literally being dishonest with yourself and with
mhm.
her.
Yeah.
So even starting, like, even if you maybe had a shot with her, you just ruined it right there, because
Mhm.
you're literally lying to her. So
Yep.
that's, you're starting a relationship out on a lie, first of all. So
Oh,
it's kind of like, you're better off just being honest, even if it doesn't work out. I mean, at
mhm.
least you could sleep at night knowing, hey, at least I tried.
Yeah,
And
you were honest with yourself and that
yeah,
person.
100%.
That's like
100%.
that's something that, people can respect too.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
when you're lying and you're just trying it's almost like mischievous, like you're trying
It
to be your
is.
friend so you can like
Yeah.
date me, and like that feels so wrong to me. Like
Yep.
you're trying to get in and know things about me without it. Yeah, that doesn't sound right to me in my head.
Hmm. No, it's literally, you're deceiving the person, and
Hmm.
you want them to like you, but you don't want them to know that you like them. It's just really weird dynamic.
Yeah,
Um,
it's very strange to me.
yeah, it doesn't work. And
No.
I think a lot of the reasons guys do that is because they're afraid of rejection, and they're
Yeah.
afraid of, oh, if she doesn't like me, like my world is over.
Yeah.
And I will tell you guys from experience, if you get rejected, you literally have to take it with a smile and a laugh and just be like, okay,
Mhm.
cool, and just move on, because it's literally not a big deal at all. I mean, she'll probably forget about you within 3 minutes of you leaving the
Yeah.
conversation, she's already forgot. It's
Yeah.
over with. And
Yep.
guys will play the scenario in their head for weeks and be like, oh my God, I made such a fool of myself. Meanwhile, she's like already moved on
Oh
within
yeah.
a minute.
Mhm.
So it's just crazy. And I've done that before too, where, I've made approaches at the gym and I met some girls through the gym and I'm like, hey, like, you want to hang out sometime? Very honest. Like, I'm not trying to just beat around the bush. And they told me to my face, like, oh, I'm kind of talking to somebody, etc.,
Mhm.
whatever. And hey, even if that was a lie and she wasn't talking to somebody or whatever, I'm not going to take offense because I don't care. Like, I'm not going to waste my time with someone that isn't interested. And
Yeah.
I think that's the approach that honestly everybody needs to take, because if you're like, oh, well, they don't like me, I'm going to convince them otherwise. No, you're not.
No.
You're not going
You're
to.
gonna look creepy.
Yeah, you're not going to. If you have to convince somebody that you're someone to be in a relationship with,
Mhm.
it just that should tell you a lot about your level of self-respect and where that falls.
I agree. I think your approach is spot on, and I'm sure it sucks. Like I'm terrified of rejection too, not just in
Yeah.
dating, but like in work when I'm
Mhm.
doing my job or I'm reaching out to people. Because it does suck. Like getting told no sucks. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
like sugarcoat it. But you do like you just got to move on. You got to have that realization. I'm like kind of reflecting to my job when somebody, I'm cold calling, someone tells me no. They're not
Yep.
even thinking about it 2 minutes later. They don't even remember me, and I'm sitting here
Mhm.
like replaying it in my head, getting myself worked up for no reason.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think guys should shoot their shot, and I'm one of those people too. Like I know people are always saying, "Oh, guys and girls shouldn't hit on each other at the gym. It could be awkward and da da." da. But if I don't think so. I think if you
Yeah, I don't
find
think
if
so at
you
all.
see somebody at the gym that you're interested in, like one, that's a great place to meet somebody because you're both trying to better yourself, and
Yeah.
that's clearly something that you both love. So
Mhm.
that can make you a better individual, both mentally, physically, and spiritually. So if you see a person doing the same thing that you love, why would you not give it a shot?
Mhm.
I don't understand why that's such a big thing of, oh my gosh, I can't go up to that girl, or oh, I can't go up to that guy at the gym. Like, no, you
Mhm.
should do it.
I agree. I think it's a great place to meet people. I mean, I've made a lot of connections just in general, like other dudes that I've seen
Yeah,
who could be maybe future clients. They could be future business partners
exactly.
that just in the gym. Um, you just never know where that could lead. I think I could speak for men. I think guys get afraid to do it because like there's all these viral TikToks of girls who are like in the gym, like, oh, this guy's creepy. And he literally just looked at her for like 3 seconds and she's freaking out on a video saying he's like a creep. And guys are like, well, I don't want to be that guy. And I think that's maybe where guys get afraid because they're like, well, I don't want to end up on this like Me Too, the second coming of Me Too on
Yeah.
TikTok type stuff.
Oh, I know. TikTok is it's entertaining, but man, I swear it just gives out the worst. Like
It,
it's
it does.
toxic.
Yeah.
Because not only does it do that with the dating world, like I feel bad because like girls shouldn't be doing it, depending on the scenario. Um,
Hmm.
we just shouldn't be doing that. We shouldn't be publicly embarrassing people because we want to feel better about ourselves. Um, I think people just need to be left alone. But unfortunately, our world works differently nowadays. But it just TikTok does give, and don't get me wrong, it's entertaining, but
Hmm.
it gives off so many negative like opinions and thoughts, and people listen to it though.
Oh
Unfortunately,
yeah.
they'll listen to it.
Yep. I've seen some of the worst sides of TikTok just
Hmm.
with the nature of my content. I kind of have it coming to me, but it's weird. It is a weird platform, and you just can't really take it too seriously. I mean, at the end of the day,
Yeah,
it is social media, so you kind of have to be like, all right, whatever. It's something that isn't going to affect my life in the long term.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think as far as the gym stuff is concerned, it's a really good place. Really anywhere. I know guys ask that a lot. Like, where do I find good women? Where do I find like wife worthy women? It's like, bro, just like look, like open your eyes. Like,
hmm.
where do you go? Like, do you sit in the house all day and play video
Right.
games? Because you're not gonna find any girls there.
No.
So you just have to get outside. Like,
Yes.
literally, like go to
True.
the park or go to a library or go to freaking go to music events. Like there's
Yeah.
tons of things to do. And if your lifestyle is constrained to just being in one location, well, that's who you're going to be surrounded with.
Yeah.
So you have to expand your environment and you have to get out of the house literally and put yourself out there, not with the intention of like to meet somebody, but just because I always say like you're just on your path and you're doing
Hmm.
what you want to do. And there's going to be other people there. There's going to be women there. Just enjoy yourself. And like, if you see a girl that you're curious about, go talk to her. I mean,
Yeah.
it's literally that simple,
Hmm.
but I think people overcomplicate it.
They do. And I completely agree with getting out and being in different environments because there's just so many benefits with that, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
somebody who's just inside all day staring at a TV and then you're just going to work, coming home and looking at the TV. I
Yeah.
mean, you're never going to meet people. You're never going to
Yep.
like expand anything that you're trying to do like personally. And again, you're not going to meet people. It's hard to meet people nowadays, and I understand why a lot of
Sure.
people do online dating, but you just need to get outside and like you said, go to do things that you like, whether that's going to the library or you're buying a book or you're maybe working at a coffee shop one day at like a Panera, or you're traveling a lot. You go to different food spots and you try different places, or you go to
Yep.
nice dinners. You can meet people there. Like there's so many different ways you can meet people that isn't at the bar, but people just won't open their eyes and look and notice it because they're,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't know why we think like, oh, I'm going to go to the bar to look for
Yep.
a husband or a wife. That doesn't make sense in my head at all.
Mm-hmm.
You could find them,
Yeah.
not find them, but you could run into them anywhere else.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we're just conditioned to think that way because it's
Hmm.
just that's what gets promoted. I mean, it's all over
It's
social
everywhere.
media. Like the lifestyle is just kind of pushed like, oh, go party and get drunk and do all that stuff.
Yeah,
It's just kind of what we're our inputs are always something like that.
I
So I
know.
think we're just conditioned. Um, Here's a hack for guys. If you guys want to know a perfect way to meet women, I mean, literally, this is like game breaking stuff here. So I can do this because I have a reason, but I'll do like street interviews and I interview a lot of women and I talk to a lot of women from that. That could turn into something. Sometimes it does,
Yeah.
sometimes it doesn't. But the funny thing is, well, number one, it's just a freaking rarity to even meet random people on the street and just start
Hmm.
conversations, period. So if you can do that, you're going to be leagues above people. I just had a previous podcast where we talk about like social skills, just
Hmm.
meeting people in general and just making approaches. It's game changing on its own. But if you want to really start like getting women curious about you, get a friend, get your phone out and just act like you're doing YouTube interviews and just tell them, "Hey, like can you stop for an interview real quick? I got some questions." You're going to get some no's, but
Hmm.
you're going to literally you're going to be blown away by how many people actually stop and talk to you.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a YouTube channel, I'm not saying you have to start one. You could just say you have a channel or say you have this and that, and
Yeah.
just literally write down two questions and be like, "Hey, can I ask you something?"
Yeah.
And then there you go. So it's a really big hack for guys that want to meet women. Go film some content, even if you don't have a channel. Easy, easy, easy way to meet women.
I'm not gonna lie, that's a very interesting way. And I'm thinking if that were me, like I would 100% stop and talk to you.
Yeah,
Like no one's doing that. I would be, oh, okay. That's honestly pure confidence doing that just to
it
random
is.
people on the streets. So wait,
Yeah,
yeah.
literally. I mean, you will stand out, and some people would be intimidated by that, but
Hmm.
that's the point. Like you're supposed to challenge yourself,
Yeah.
and I've done that before too, where I was talking to I approached these like group of girls with there was guys in the group. And what do you know? You ask like this is what you do is you ask the guys first because then they're going to get weirded out if you ask the girls first. So you ask them, make sure that they know you're a cool guy. The guys always say no, always. And the girls usually they either say yes or they don't say anything because the guys they're with they just like don't want them to talk to other dudes.
Yeah.
So I just get like, okay, whatever, bro. But it's so funny what happens is there was Well, I remember the one interview I did. Me and my brother went out, and there was this girl with there's two girls with one guy, and I'm like, okay, even if he's dating one of them, the other one isn't dating him. So I'm
Mhm.
just gonna try to get some content. And
Yeah.
we went up to this group, asked the guy, he wanted nothing to do with it. Two of the girls were like, yeah, like let's, they were down, and the guy was like, oh, let's just keep walking, let's get out of here. And it's so funny what happens. Like guys get so protective and so I don't even know what to call it because I know that they're not dating because he's getting that insecure. But yeah, it's funny what happens when you just start approaching people and you just notice, oh yeah, right away if a girl's single or if she's talking to somebody.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure it's very obvious too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. If you guys want to challenge yourself, I definitely recommend doing that. It's really fun, and in general, you're gonna get better at just being
Yeah.
social in general. So it's always something I would recommend.
For
Um,
a way to get out of your comfort zone.
it sure
And to
is.
really just go to the extreme.
Yeah, literally, just jump in the
Get it
cold
all out.
water all the way in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
I
a good
like
one.
it. Uh-huh.
Um, I wanted to ask you a question real quick about because we were talking about like we kind of went on a tangent, but
Yeah.
that's just how these things
That's
go.
what happens.
Yeah, that's just the person I am too. But we were talking about like being a high value man, and we were talking about like knowing that that's the kind of guy that usually women will go for is the dude who's confident, put together, etc.
Hmm.
I'm curious in your point of view, how much do you notice women dating for potential as opposed to just dating a guy who's like already had that stuff? Like he's let's say he's already successful financially,
Hmm.
he has things going on. How often do you think women date guys who maybe he's not quite there yet, but he's on
Yeah.
his way to get there?
Yeah. That's interesting because I feel like I don't really know. It sucks. Unfortunately, I don't have a ton of girlfriends to um, use as not examples, but
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I feel like at least in my age group and just like noticing people at the gym or noticing people online and maybe just even at my apartment complex at the pool, it seems like a lot of girls are good with a man who's maybe building in his building phase. I don't see a lot of
Mm-hmm.
girls going after, and I hate to use this word, but like gold diggers who, as a woman, they don't have anything to offer and they're just solely chasing a man for money because they
Yeah.
just want them to provide for their entire life and their lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like a lot of women will, as long as the man has a plan and is actively working hard towards those goals, I think, women or girls will be with a man in those phases. But I also think it's challenging when you're 20s because I feel like not a lot of people realize that, though. I think people are just dating because you have an awesome connection and you just get super excited and like the butterflies and stuff. I don't think people
Mm-hmm.
think that far into it, but
Yeah.
that could just be me not noticing a lot of things. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I'm curious. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, it's interesting because typically women usually go for like older guys and men usually date younger women just in general. So I think the reason for that is because what I just mentioned, like that's a guy who's older typically has more resources, he can provide more security. He's usually
Hmm.
mentally like more mature. He usually has things figured out by that point. So women typically do date men that
Yeah.
are older. Not always, but I'd say sometimes that's the
Hmm.
case. Um, so I think in general, if a guy who's like has potential, if he's competing with a guy who already has it, it's kind of an unfair fight because the dude who already has it is like, I mean, that's like comparing like Leonardo DiCaprio now to like an actor who's like just starting out. I mean, there's no comparison.
Yeah.
So it's tough, but I do think that women date for potential. Like if you have, let's say you're a guy who's starting a business or you're trying to get things put together for yourself. If you have a plan and you're executing on that plan and
Hmm.
to bring it back to what we talked about, like you're communicating your plan to her so she knows where you're going and you're actually like
Yep.
putting in like you're producing results, I think it can
Yeah.
work. I don't think you have to like there's a line out there that a lot of guys use in my industry. They say that women pick champions, or they not champions, but they pick the guy at the finish line who's already won the race. Like they don't worry about the guys in the race. And I kind of like I understand that, but I also somewhat disagree because I think as long as you're a dude who's showing the
Yeah.
traits or showing the you're showing that you can be that kind of guy eventually, that can sometimes do it for women, and especially if they like your personality and like all these other factors. Um, I do think that that plays a role, but I also think that if you're just a dreamer, for example, and you tell this girl like, "Oh, I'm going to be successful, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that,"
Mhm.
and you never produce, well, I mean, eventually she's going to be like, "Okay, well, this guy's not going anywhere. I kind of have to cut ties with him." So I think that also
Yeah.
plays into it. Like, um, you have to eventually be the guy you
Yeah.
say that you're going to be to, to prove it.
Yep. I agree. I agree. I think there's so many different factors though that play into what people go for and the age
Hmm.
differences too. Like I feel like in your 20s, a lot of people are still in their party phases, like both male and
Yeah.
female. So it's like they're in party phases, work isn't that important. They're trying to escape reality. So like I think a lot of people just will date each other in the party scene because they're having
Hmm.
fun together and it's thrilling, it's exciting. But some
Yeah.
people who are in different phases in life, for example, me, I probably am looking for somebody a lot older because I'm at a different phase in my life where I'm not partying and I want to go to nice dinners. I want to network. I want to go to events. I want to travel. Like I want to do all of these things. So being
Hmm.
with a man who not only is, I wouldn't say has a plan, but like is executing on his plan, um, that's something that I think girls who are wanting that or who have passed the party phase, that's something they're probably going to go after. Because not only is like, because he's bringing you up with him, right? I think that's
Hmm.
kind of important. If as long as you're both actively getting better and you're climbing the ladder together. I don't know. There's just so many different factors on what people look for, and I just think there's a lot of people who don't even recognize that or like value any of those things in a relationship. Again, I think it's more the thrill of like, oh, they have a relationship, they can post on social media and they can do X, Y, and Z. Like
Yeah.
it's fantasy land. So
Hmm.
I think it just depends on the person that you talk to and etc.
Hmm. Yeah, there is a lot of factors, and that's the thing about life. I mean, there's so much gray area that it's not as black and white as people think it is. Some things are, but there's
Hmm.
a lot of gray. And I think if you're like the best thing that you can do, I think if you're at least if you're a guy, is to literally just start working on yourself and
Hmm.
start building, start trying to create, start improving your life.
Yeah.
And there might be a period in your life where you don't talk to any women and you kind of you do your own thing. You maybe don't go on dates. You don't entertain any women. And I think
Yeah.
that's necessary for like if you're trying to go from like here to here, you might
Hmm.
need to do that
Yeah.
temporarily. But I don't think you all like you can once you get here, you don't have to like shut women out forever.
Right.
Um, so I think that it's important to understand where you're going, and if
Hmm.
a girl's on board with that, then cool. She can come along that that path with you. Um, it kind of just depends on who you're talking to. Like if someone was actually mentioning like an example, and I'm like, that's an interesting way to think about it. Um, the late Kevin Samuels was talking about the same exact thing. Actually, he was like, well, if you had a daughter, so he was talking to another guy. He said, if you had a daughter and she had the choice between the aspiring like guitarist who or guitar player who wanted to be this like famous musician or whatever he was, or even a guy in college, like he was going to get his degree, he's going to be a doctor, going to be eventually going to be a successful guy, or there was a 35-year-old guy who was a doctor and he's already successful. He's like, who would you feel more comfortable if she brought home? I'm like, damn, I'm like actually thinking about that. I'm like, well, as the father, I'd probably be a lot more comfortable saying, hey, go with the doctor who's already made it. But I could also see, if if a dude's like up and coming and he's actually like about his word and he can actually prove that he's going to be that kind of person, I could see that too. But it's yeah, there's just a lot that goes into it.
I agree. There's so many different factors, and because everyone's different and everyone likes different things and everyone has different goals and
Hmm.
achievements and etc.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's so many factors that go into who people look for, what they want, etc.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting from a woman's point of view because I know a lot of girls, like you mentioned, are like really career focused. They're really focused on like building themselves up, which again is a good thing. But you can see a lot of women that are getting like maybe there's women that are like in their 40s or like they're a little bit older, and I've heard some of them talk on like podcasts and stuff like that, and they're
Hmm.
like, man, I did the whole career thing, and like they've become really successful, but they never really focused on like finding a partner or having a family or having kids, and sometimes they regret it. They're like, man, I wish I would have done this
Yeah.
differently. So I'm wondering like if you were to tell women just a solid piece of advice when it comes to just I guess that balance of, hey, do
Mhm.
I do the career thing or do I maybe put that not put it on hold, but just not delay the relationship or family until it's too late kind of thing. Like where do you see being like a good balance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think like the word balance. I think that you
Mhm.
can do both. I'm someone who's always actively working on my career, working on side stuff, doing all these things with my health and my physique and stuff. But I still make
Mhm.
time to get to know someone that I thought was of value. Like if you, again,
Yeah.
I'm not. There's a difference between looking for someone, actively trying to find that perfect person. I think people tend to spend a lot of time, right? They're scrolling on apps or they're
Yeah.
purposely going out to the bars every single weekend. And you're putting a lot of time and attention towards dating, where you could have both, where you can focus on your career if somebody comes up, which they do. Like they always say, it comes when you're not looking and you're focusing
It's
on
true.
yourself. Like this guy did. I was,
Mhm.
going to the gym, still working on myself with my career, and met him and was still actively putting a lot of time and effort into him because I saw that there would be potential value there. Um,
Mhm.
you could still, again, it comes to the communication thing. Like, I don't have to spend all day talking to this person. You can still go to work, focus on what you need to do, grind while you can, and then you can talk to your person, or you can go on dates after work. And you just have to prioritize it. Like, what is most important to you in this very moment? Like, is it
Mhm.
success? Is it money? But I also don't think that that should be your entire sole purpose of life. Like, it's super
Mhm.
fucking lonely. Like, I've been there. I've been the person who was like, grind, 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 money, 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 money's everything. Money, when
Mhm.
you get it, money doesn't make you happy. People do. And
True.
they're, like relationships are exciting. And I don't know. I think that you can have both. You just need to prioritize it again and make sure it's a good person and the right person, and you're not actively dating 15 different people.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
can do both. You really can.
Mhm. Yeah, it's an interesting breakdown. I'd say for men typically have like the biological advantage to kind of put off family until maybe their mid 30s, late 30s, and just be like, hey, I focus on my career and I could wait. And there's some statistics that say uh, fertility goes down in men a little bit into the 30s, but it's not crazy drastic. But for women, it's kind
Hmm.
of the opposite. Like once they hit 35,
Yeah.
like high risk pregnancy. After that, menopause, things like that happen a little bit later in their life. So it's
Yep.
kind of like it's tough for a woman to also, like, if she is very career driven,
Mhm.
to just put all the energy into that. And then, when she is built up, maybe she is successful, she's like mid 30s and she looks back,
Yeah.
it's like, man, I didn't find anybody, or I wasn't open to anyone. So
Yeah.
it's very difficult. And
I agree.
I I think, I mean, I don't know if I have the right answer for this. I would say, and this goes for both people, this goes for men and women. I think the best thing that you can do is obviously work on yourself, like first and foremost, like no matter what you're trying to do. but almost prepare yourself to be like a husband, a father, a wife, a mother, even
Mhm.
as you're single. And I know that sounds weird, but I think that's the best way to go. Because if you're like, oh, I'm just career and my mind isn't even on children, well, then by the time you're old enough, you're just like, shit, I wish I would have had kids at a younger age. So I think if you do that and you almost still kind of, and I guess what I mean by that is guys just, get your money up, make sure you can provide, like make sure you have a house, make sure you have security for a family.
Mhm.
Before you have that, don't even fucking worry about kids because you're not going to be able to even afford them, if that's the case. So
Yeah.
I would say that's, you got to prepare as a guy. And
Yeah.
for women, it's kind of like you said, like do your thing, like be focused on yourself and work on improving whatever you're trying to improve. It could be a passion, it could be whatever. Um, but at the same time, yeah, maybe not like hit the clubs every weekend. Maybe not like just waste your youth or waste your,
Mhm.
your beauty or something on just random people that you're not going to care about in a
Yeah.
week. So it's kind of one of those things that you almost have to be ready for it before you're actually ready for it.
I agree. And I think I can only speak for myself and what I'm thinking future eyes. Like I just see myself if I was like right now, if I was just, oh my God, career focused and just only
Hmm.
worried about money 24/7. And then I get to that point where I'm 32, 33. If I'm making 200, 300 grand, 400 grand, let's just say, not only are your life's different, you're not working at 9 to 5, it becomes your
Yeah.
life. Like you're
Hmm.
consumed in your work and you're on the clock 24/7 if you're making that much money. Like I don't care what industry you're in, you're
Hmm.
clearly doing something extravagant and outside of what all the normal people are doing. So not
Yeah.
only is it, I'm sure, a high stress job, especially being in sales myself. Sales is a very high stress job, especially for females because we're extremely emotional.
Hmm.
If I'm 32, 33, and I'm getting towards that older, like one, I'm going to be combating against the crazy work schedule
Yep.
that I have and also the stress that comes with that and carrying a baby with all of that stress. Like some
Yep.
people don't make it. And I think that's
Hmm.
where, miscarriages could happen and stuff like that. So I think you just need to
Hmm.
be cautious of what you actually want to do. Cause there are some women who just don't want kids. And I think that's awesome. And they do their thing and they make their bread. But if you are somebody who wants a family and you want kids, you want a husband, like you can balance both while you're still young and going after what you want. Don't wait
Hmm.
until it's too late to make that move.
Yeah. Yeah, and have it in mind, I think, early on. Like
Yeah.
if you are in the period where you're focusing on your career, I mean, I'm speaking like as women. If you are in that period and you want to have kids, still have that in your mindset. Like, okay, I want kids, but right now is maybe the career thing or whatever they're trying to do. Um,
Yeah.
so don't be like opposed to it, or don't be like, ah, well, I don't want kids. And then 10 years go by and you change your mind. Well, now I want kids. It's like, well, it might be a little bit too late, or you might not have the ability to do it. So I I think best case scenario, and I'm speaking for men here, this is my ideal situation for, I mean, myself at least. Maybe other guys watching this, but that's why I think it's so important for men to focus on their career, to focus on their life, their purpose, and the things that they're building. So eventually, when you do find a girl, maybe she is a little bit more successful, or maybe she's a little bit more business oriented. When you get to that point and she's been working, working, working for maybe her entire life, I think the best case scenario, as a guy, to be like that ultimate provider, I'd be like, hey, honey, if you don't want to work for a year or two, you could take off. Like I got it. I think that would be, I mean, this is just my opinion. I think that would be like best case scenario,
I
because that
agree.
way she doesn't have to, like, if she wants to spend a year or two or 3 or 4, with the kids and just not have to worry about work,
Yeah.
then you don't have to, she isn't forced to be in work mode because
Yeah.
she's already been provided for. Like the guy is successful enough
Yep.
or whatever. I think that's the best case scenario. It might not be that way for everybody, but
Mhm.
um, that's why I think as a dude, you got to have that purpose like top of mind.
No, I could agree with that because also I don't think people loop in the costs of
Oh
how
yeah.
much daycare and nannies
Hmm.
actually cost. It's like it's a full person salary
Yep.
a year. So if your wife can stay home because you can provide, that's
Yeah.
best case scenario.
Hmm. And there's studies too that back it up. Like if children aren't exposed to their mother, like as soon as they're born, very negative effects on the kid. Just developmental stuff. Like if
Hmm.
1 to 4 is like their prime years of soaking up information and learning, and if they're not around the mom, a lot of that time, it could really mess the kid up. Like the father too, of course, but it's
Yeah.
really important for moms to be around a newborn.
Yeah, I'm sure. I haven't gotten that far into studies of kids, but I could
Yeah.
imagine it's very important and
Hmm.
long term a relationship with both
Hmm.
parents is important.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a whole. I mean, we can probably get off into a whole other tangent with that on its
Yeah.
own, to be honest. But yeah, that's really it. Is there anything else you wanted to maybe close off with, or just kind of end on, or anything you wanted to add?
Um, no, honestly, I think we covered a lot today.
Hmm.
Looking at the clock, I didn't even realize an hour and a half was almost, but
I know.
um, no, nothing to close out on. I think, I would love to continue doing these with you and we can maybe
Yeah.
bounce off of it then and continue our conversations. But yeah.
100%. Yeah. Where can people find you if they want to check out your content?
Yeah, it's fit by and then there's two under dashes or underscores and then Brandi Brandi is how I spell it. But that's where you can find me. I post a lot of food, a lot of motivation stuff, gym stuff, lots of content. So go check it out.
Heck yeah. Yeah. And I'll leave her stuff down below if you guys want to check it out. And if you like this podcast, give me a thumbs up. Let me know what topics you want to see on future podcasts. I think it's good to just get engagement. If you made it this far, congratulations. Pat yourself on the back. Most people won't do it, but yeah, if you did watch it all, make sure you actually take notes and apply the things we're talking about in here because there's a lot that we did discuss. So just do your research, take some opinions from people that are actually out here in the real world making things happen. And yeah, put your spin on it. So that's all I got to say. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're new, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace.